Welcome back to Tech Society, the podcast delivering candid conversations with smart people, tech and business leaders, academics, and more about their big ideas and how they're changing our world. And now your hosts, Alex Dunmo and John Nguyen.
And before we begin this episode, just quickly, is it time for your business to evolve? Yes, it is. So come see Ninja Software, njs.dev. All right, let's get into the episode.
Hey techies, today we're with Sarah James, Principal Engineer at Jacobs Engineering Group and also one of Australia's leading female technologists. Sarah is the author of Are You Ready to Change the World? She works with teams to integrate future technologies using data as the foundation to think strategically about technology. She inspires others to help the business with new ideas and initiatives, mentoring and leading teams to transform in a way that creates innovation and meets strategic objectives. Today we discuss with Sarah her balancing the perfectionist and iterative mindsets, diversity and its huge improvements over the years, her off-grid farm project to develop a sustainable living space for the future, her thoughts on the most exciting and impactful emerging technologies in our lifetime, and Perth's potential to become one of the greatest self-sustaining cities. Let's get into it.
I'm Sarah. I've got 20 plus years in career, I suppose, of working in the UK, Australia, America, all the way around the world. I started off first 10 years of my career in technology, in engineering. So working for engineering consultancies in a few companies from the UK back in the late 1990s. And then in 2009, I emigrated or looked at emigrating to Australia, and I transitioned across to technology. So I eventually got here in 2011, and I've had 10 years career here in Perth as well. So I'm very, very lucky. I'm a principal now for Jacobs, leading some of the teams in digital solutions, and that includes digital advisory and also products and also our data analytics, AI, IoT, that side of things as well across Australia. So it's been a bit of a journey to get where I am today, an amazing one. First job, I was IT help desk support in 1998. Wow. And I've done numerous roles since then, so absolutely love tech and the mix between engineering. That's me.
So the book, Are You Ready to Change the World?
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, I started it 6 years ago. After writing a blog with my then editor, and she edited the book for me as well, Christine, we wrote a article before the election in America, looking at potentially if a female came into the presidency. And it was written ready to go the night before, and the next day, unfortunately, the path didn't happen. Yeah. So what happened was I wrote this blog, and it sat there for quite some time, and my brain kept jumping back to it. The what if things had changed? What if a Jacinda Ardern type person was in? What if? So from there, I started writing more, and it definitely wasn't for a large technology consulting firm to publish, and it was something that I was writing. And a very wise leader, Ro Gorel, she's a leadership coach and author as well, she said to me, well, what are you going to do with all these, Sarah? And I said, well, I'm going to have to do something, aren't I? So I started pulling them together into a book. And the reason why you read it in the preface is I've got two girls who are 6 and 7, and I wanted to write down my thoughts, my experiences, and what makes a great leader and a leader of the future. And also I believe the leadership needs to change to more leading with heart and leading with diversity and leading with a different perspective around environment and sustainability in order for companies to succeed in the future. So that's why I wrote it. I wrote it for the next generation coming
So
through.
you wrote it for your daughters?
Yes, I did.
So why the title? Are you ready to change the world?
The last 6 years we've gone on a journey. We have had the girls for starters. We've also bought a farm about an hour from Perth, and we've gone on this sustainable journey, building an off-grid house with a battery room out the back and 40 kilowatt hour of power, and then started playing with technology on the farm. So this journey, it's just opened my eyes to what can be done. And I think the pandemic has also made me realise that the tyranny of distance has its positives and its negatives. And in Perth, WA, we are very, very lucky.
You say you live on an off-grid
Yes.
farm, so like no power connection at all?
No power connection at all.
I must jump into this because it's a very interesting topic to me.
Okay.
Does that mean it's run completely off solar?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a battery system.
Yes. Lithium ion, we've just upgraded.
Yeah.
What kind of capacity are we talking?
Well, 40 kilowatts?
Yeah. So
kilowatt hours, I mean. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I've been looking into this and it's very
Okay.
interesting.
Oh God.
No, just my interest so far has been in the DIY kind of process.
Yes.
Of off-grid
Yeah.
So
prepping.
I assume the path you've gone being
Yes.
Yeah.
engineering minded.
Did you put this together because at the moment Tesla's come out, there's a power wall.
Oh, yes.
You can pay a installer to install solar panels.
So very
consumer
expensive.
ready tech.
I
Right?
feel
Yeah.
that the stuff in the consumer land is not as great as what you could build yourself. So
Yeah.
I'd love you to talk about the process of putting all this together.
Yeah, so I'm very lucky. I'm very strategic thinking. The way my brain is, I have a million pieces of paper and a whiteboard all around the house ready to go to draw. It's the way we work. I have an amazing husband, Robert, by my side. If it wasn't for him, that book would not be there, that's for sure, because he gives me the courage to do things and the courage to have a go. He's also very practical, and he's a fridge mechanic and trained electrician. You have to train in both when you do it. And therefore his practical application and my strategic thinking, you join it together and you get the solution. So Robert's built it all.
Wow.
We've done it I also worked on mine sites quite a bit. So therefore the connections we had, a lot of the kit that's on mine site is recycled and reused. So therefore a lot of the batteries, when you're working in the middle of nowhere, and I mean 6-7 hours drive from anywhere, it can be reused. So that's what we've done. We've worked with a local Perth company just starting up, who have, I'll provide you the name afterwards so you can put it in the blog because they're brilliant.
You can say it.
I can't remember it off the top of my head. It begins with an S, but yeah, they're not far down the road from here. But they've done a wonderful job. So we're on trial 2. So I think it's finding what you've got locally as well. So it's cost us about 20 grand to do all up, and that's with a refresh. So we did have to play with it because our redundancy was originally around a week, and we didn't expect, in actual fact, you probably need 2 to 3 weeks redundancy in the case of this weather that we've got today, because you don't get any power coming in. And we have to change our ways of living as well. So I have to think if I'm going to use my hairdryer in the morning if it's a rainy day. It survives and it jumps back, but you just have to think a bit more about what you're using when. And we've also got 2 incubators on the go at the moment linked up to the system as well, and a red light which draws loads of power because we've got chickens hatching. So you just have to think what you're doing when, and then you also have to think, well, where else can I create solar power from? So if you're doing pumps, so we've got pumps around the property as well that draw water to irrigate different areas. They're all run off solar power on purpose, because why use the house power when you can use what's out there? And it's just thinking differently and applying my knowledge from my experience in technology and engineering, across the farm, and then we work with it together. It's also okay to fail.
Mm-hmm.
So getting comfortable, getting out there before it's perfect, making sure you've got the legal requirements and everything in place, obviously, to go with it, but being okay with tweaking it, because that's the best way you're going to learn. So, yeah.
That's an interesting thing to say. It's okay to fail. That's like number one for engineers, right? You have to be okay with not being perfect right from the start, right?
Yeah, but when you're a perfectionist, it's really hard. I had this discussion. I did a survey online last night. It's about 1 million lives, and it's a check-in. So it's Are You OK Day today. Mm-hmm. And Jacobs has got this online check-in tool. And so I took it last night. One of the things that came out was, Sarah, you're a perfectionist. I'm like, oh yeah, I am kind of. And it's being mindful of that. So being okay with getting something out to your team if you haven't spell checked it. So what? It's got a spelling mistake in it. It can, one of your teams should pick it up, I hope. And it's sometimes things have to get out there sooner rather than later. Mm-hmm. I should have published that book 6 years previously. I should have taken past the fear barrier and had a go. But it's risk, and you have to kind of weigh up your risk factors with the ability to get things out there. And I think, I suppose, the older I get, the more I'm willing to cross that fear barrier. You've no idea how scared I was this morning about this. But
and it's not too bad, right?
No, it's lovely. Yeah. You guys are great to talk to.
I'm curious about, because you said the Jacobs thing said you were a perfectionist.
Yes.
Right? But now you're talking about iteration and not fearing failure.
Yep.
So how do you balance your innate perfectionism with iteration?
Yeah, share earlier.
Can I add a diversity rider on this? Do you think that's something that women struggle with more than men? In general, obviously, there's averages and bell curves and all that kind of stuff. But do you think that whether genetically or societally or some kind of environment pressure, that women have a more of a like, what's the word I'm trying to think of, like
risk adversity?
Yes.
No, yeah, and just scared of not appearing perfect and having to
do it
put
all.
a lot more thought and time and stuff at their own detriment.
Yes, I agree. I'm reading a book at the moment by Annabelle Crabb. I'm looking around it because I've got it in my handbag, and it's called The Wife Drought. Yes. So I'm reading it because my husband, we're 6 weeks into him becoming a stay-at-home dad, so picking up the kids and dropping the kids off at school, or the bus, I should say. And then also him doing the farm work, we do camping on the farm as well, off-grid camping. And we're kind of going through this change period where I'm very reliant on him now. And it's amazing. I was really scared to begin with because I didn't know what it was going to be like, because I'm used to control and perfectionism, making sure everything's right and I'm lined up and I'm happy and I'm good. I've prepared for my meetings, I've prepared for everything that's to go wrong, and got the kids out the door in the morning and everything else. And now he's stepping up, and it's refreshing. It's so I don't think it's necessarily a female thing. I think it's a personality thing. So I think, yes, it perhaps is exasperated in women because of the pressures of society. But often the pressures are what we put on ourselves. And I think that's what I've done, is put the perfectionist on myself because I have high expectations of myself.
Yeah.
So it's about balancing that and being able to be aware of that, and then having somebody in a partnership that complements you. So I've just found that Robert brings me cups of tea in the day. It's like every hour I get just a cup of tea, just arrive, or coffee or whatever. I'm like, this is amazing, and it's refreshing. And it's refreshing not having to think about everything. So knowing that somebody else is there and got your back. I'm also experiencing this now with Women in Tech in WA,
Yeah,
Whitwa.
That's where I was going to
Yeah,
go
I thought you
next.
might.
Yeah.
So Whitwa for me, especially the last few years, I've been supporting many of my colleagues over the years and supporting them in terms of giving them time to attend in the day things, volunteering, and giving permission to do. We've got a WhatsApp chat, which is Whitwa, and my Whitwa connections, and it doesn't matter what company you work for. They're our little core group, and we just bounce ideas off of each other and just give each other confidence and let each other know if we're going to an event and if you want a partner to go with. And it shouldn't matter where you come from or which organisation. It's about having like-minded people around you to support you and have your back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah.
With Whitwa, have you noticed a shift in? I don't know how long you've been involved with Whitwa, or at least going to events and things like that. But
4 or 5 years now.
have you noticed a
In the
shift?
background.
Let's say within the last 5 years, where the actual women within Whitwa are moving more into your background. They're actually engineers, and
Yes.
because I know one of the criticisms leveled at Whitwa historically was that it was mostly women in tech, but they were still in fairly female-dominated roles. But now we're definitely seeing more shift towards programmers and engineers and things like that, which is great. And that must be good. Much easier to build a peer group, right?
Yeah. When I joined a few years ago, 5 years ago, and went to events, first person I met was Lacey Filippich and Money School. And she's written a few books as well. Lacey was amazing. She's helped me immensely, given me the push and given me the, Sarah, you can do this. And she's not from a tech background either.
Yeah.
She's finance background. So I haven't seen any different. It's actually opened my eyes. So I think Jeff Bezos said that every company globally in the world will eventually be a tech company. Was it Jeff or was it?
I think he might have said it, but Mike Cannon-Brookes definitely from Atlassian.
Yes.
He said it. I paraphrase it constantly.
Yeah, but it's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think there is going to be a radical change. I haven't written about this in my book, but might go in the next one because there is another one coming. I think that it's definitely opened up, especially the perf scene. And I think their membership is huge compared to what it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think they're bigger than ACS now.
Yes, yeah. Well, ACS is how I ended up in the country. So they 10 years ago they assessed my skills as a business analyst
Oh wow!
for the Australian Computer Society, and I was given permission to come into Australia as a result of that. So I'm very grateful for them too.
What were some of your challenges in the tech and IT industry 20 years ago, 10 years ago?
I was
as you're kind of leaving the help
progressing.
desk.
Yeah. So leaving the help desk was one decision, firstly. And I wasn't going to go to uni. I was offered a very nice number to stay and work for that company. Computer Centre back then, doing supply chain of parts all the way around the world for BMW, Jaguar, Land Rover. It was an amazing job, remotely pinging printers in warehouses and different things, and using green screens and things. But then there wasn't many of us. In a call centre of about 20, there was 2 women. So 10%, not bad. I grew up with a father in IT, and he gave me, so in the 70s, he did some of the first data centres in BP, and did an internship at night, farming in day, tech at night. And he said that he had teams of women back then because they were the only people who could type and enter the information into the computers.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very interesting. When I was in the UK, my first 10 years in engineering consultancy was the first women in engineering, women in leadership groups I got involved in. And it was, I suppose I had so much energy, I had so much willpower that I could do that then. And I came out here after leading teams of 20 plus in the UK to leading a small team. And 10 years ago, it was very different in Perth to what I'd come from in the UK. I was used to women changing the world, we're going to be leaders, and leading the way. And I got here and I had to take a step back. I couldn't push. I couldn't, because there wasn't that change. There was no females in my team, no other females whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it was a bit scary. And slowly but surely, I've been able to build it back up. I think that when I had children, the energy that I had, you kind of refocus.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You kind of go, you haven't got time for the
Yeah.
BS, so to speak.
Or saving the world.
No, you
Anything
haven't.
like that, yeah.
You've got to kind of go, well, what are my priorities? What am I going to do? I've got this amount of time. I can't do everything.
This amount of time, yeah.
And you learn to say no pretty quickly, which is another one I struggle with. But when you have kids, you kind of go, okay, I've got this amount of time. I have to, and you decompartmentalize. So the last 6 years, I've actually come back to go, okay, I'm ready to change the world again. Because if I don't, who is going to? And it takes baby steps and a team to do so. So I think changing the world starts with yourself. And I think I have now worked with teams of women, which is amazing. I've had an all-female team meeting in mining organisation, which was amazing. And we were, all three of us were like, wow, this is the first female meeting we've had.
By accident?
Yes, completely by accident. And it was inspiring.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, okay. And then in the last couple of years, I've been given opportunities to look at, well, research and do investigation in diversity, and not just gender, also culture, and also age, and different things that makes a diverse team. And I truly believe that the more diverse a team is, the better your outcome, because you get more brains. And this isn't a new phenomenon, it's been around a while. But yeah, in essence, I've seen huge changes in 20 years of women working in IT. My father said to me when I joined the profession, he said, are you sure you want to do this? Because of some of the things he'd seen over the years.
Absolutely.
And there have been moments where, and I talk about it in my book, I've been in a meeting, I'm the only female there, and I'm asked to take notes.
or get copies or something.
Yes, yeah. And it does happen, but I've learned, I was very, very lucky. I had some advice from, I'm going to name names. She's now very senior in Disney, CTO, and she said to me, Sarah, own it. When you are in a room, own your space. Like, spread yourself out.
Like a man, you mean?
Well, I didn't know this, but apparently so.
Yeah.
But it was the best piece of advice she ever gave me, because you own who you are. And once you know who you are, you can do that when you walk in a room. She also gave me another piece of advice, which is when the more senior you go, the more difficult things you've got to deal with, and the hard conversations you've often got to have. And it's the ability to go from one conversation to the next and switch your brain. And if it's been a very challenging conversation, being okay to say, I need 20 minutes. We need to push out this next meeting because I'm not mentally in the space to do this. So she really did help me and give me that advice.
I like that. So, because I think that way innately. I kind of imagine a box around me, and it's my space, and it's kind of ephemeral as well. So it's like my boundaries. So when your words come across that box, and I don't like them, then I have the permission to myself to push them back out of the box, right? And so it's a grounding thing. if you don't imagine a boundary around you, then no one else will respect your boundaries.
Yes. I also think that those boundaries are blended now.
Mm.
So the more we are working from home, the more we bring our authentic selves to work. So hence the T-shirt today. So we are all Wonder Women, because we've all got a bit of woman in us, and we've all got that feminine side, and we are all wonderful in our own way. And it's being that somebody once said, there's another quote, you're gonna have to research who said it. There's enough space for everybody around that table. It's not a case of a percentage allocation or anything like that. There's enough space for everybody. Just make room. I think the boundaries are shifting that you talk about, and I think in order to build up rapport and trust, you have to take down those barriers and take down those boundaries. But it's also being aware of what your boundaries are, and also your innate sense of value.
Do you think there's a when you talk about percentage allocations and things like that?
Yeah.
Do you think there's a kind of a marketing issue with that diversity approach, where a lot of organizations actually have that goal, but they're not honest about it up front? And so there's this prevailing sense that a woman got the job because she's a woman, and there was a better applicant who was a man, and
this kind of mentality happens a lot in engineering, I find. There's like quotas behind the scenes of diversity. I used to be an engineer in a past life as well.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Cool.
And often when a woman gets the job, they assume it's a quota related thing as opposed to a competence
I don't think
thing.
it's engineering specific.
No,
but that's one example I'm familiar with.
That's
I think
even
it's across the board.
company boardrooms
Yeah.
and things like that as well. It's a prevailing notion that a woman was picked because she's just because she's a woman,
And
which is usually not true.
So these initiatives actually do damage ultimately if you don't.
I think you just have to communicate it, right? So if you do want a 50-50 team, that needs to be advertised.
So are you saying when you advertise for a job, you be specific about the kind of diversity that job is for? So this job is for a woman,
or like if it's a board, you say we're looking for another female board member. So that's the goal. You're a bit more open about it, and now you're picking the best woman to apply for that role.
Best person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's other ways as well. I have had somebody to my face in a room full of people say you were only chosen for this role because you are a woman.
Well, that is so disrespectful.
But it's how you deal with that and how you respond.
How did you respond?
Kindness.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I wouldn't have.
Kill it with kindness, my mother taught me. You have to, because you are paving the way for the next generation, and you have to have that in the back of your mind at all times. So you say, okay, that's your opinion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you feel that way. That's okay. That's how society has made you feel. Now, how about I prove you wrong?
Wow, that's a lot of strength. I think my
it takes courage
and holding back a bit. Actually.
Well,
yes.
I was actually going to say like cognitive reserve, because my brain would
your animal brain would start.
It would zone down. I'd be on like 10% capacity, and I'd just be like, "You what, mate?
Yeah.
What? That you what?" That kind of direct rudeness.
Well, you are a strategic thinker, you said, and it is a good approach.
That's admirable.
You have to. You have to.
Here's the question: did the other men in the room step up and defend you?
I think that is so. This is a long time ago.
I would hope no one would say shit like that these days.
Oh no. So my experience, Jacobs, outstanding.
Yeah.
Absolutely outstanding. I can honestly say this is the happiest I've been in 20 years of my career.
Wow.
I think it is because of the values at heart. So there's something called Beyond Zero that we have, which is about not only ensuring our people are safe, but it's also about the environment and sustainability and beyond. We won't do any project unless it makes a difference in those regards. I've had male colleagues say, "Go for it, Sarah." I've had male colleagues stand up for others and say, call out pronouns and descriptives and say, and I've been called out, which is wonderful because I use guys all the time. I'm trying to work on that one.
Oh, that's an interesting
I know,
one
it's
for
an Australian
me.
one.
It's more
Yeah.
like, what's the alternative? And I'm happy to use the suitable alternative.
I would actually, this is
I correct
me.
myself.
I would prefer that the definition changed, and it just became a generic word. I don't think it needs to remain gendered. English is a very flexible language.
There's an unfortunate alternative that was suggested, and it's very American-centric. It's y'all.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, no.
And there's
No.
like buddies, which
Yeah.
feels very, I guess
More
generally.
casual.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I always, buddies. I don't really
There's no
like it.
alternative.
It's like,
I think.
We.
Yeah.
Shall we?
yeah.
But
Hey, team.
There's
You guys.
there's a like guys is like when you say, oh hey guys, it's like a casual, I know you all, we're all friends. I guess I don't say it to women anymore because the people
Yeah.
have a problem with it.
So what
but
do you say?
I wish they didn't.
So what do
yeah.
you say then?
Hey friends.
Hello, humans.
Yeah.
Fellow humans.
Hello people. I don't know. I mean, it's
There's no
an
alternative,
interesting
and
one.
that's an interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is interesting in Australia because women will say it to other women. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah.
So my personal
So you need to
preference is I
de-genderify
wish-
the word,
I
right?
wish that
Yes.
but it's there's so much conflict around it that I'm definitely not going to die on that. hill.
No. Exactly.
It's not the windmill I want to tilt at.
No.
But I like it when when words degender. So
Yes.
now actor is for both.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
Engineer is for both.
Yeah.
Data scientist is for both.
That's right. It just makes sense.
So anyway, just jumping back to it, you spoke a lot about diversity and how things have improved over the past years. Do you think like the huge government initiatives into STEM education for young women, is that actually making a difference, or how has that impacted the improvement of diversity?
Yes. It's making a huge difference.
Yep.
So I've been lucky enough to go into schools and play with robots. So Spheros, they're little blue.
yeah, they're cool.
Yeah,
They're little,
Super cool. Oh,
Yeah.
I wish I had
Ball
those.
robots.
We bought two
Yeah.
off the back of
They're
that.
way fun.
So our kids, the 6 and 7, they know how to do it. They know how to code at 6 and 7. It's
Do
just
they play the
geez.
augmented reality games?
No,
'Cause,
I'm not
that's
doing that
when
yet.
I got one. You just hold the phone up and you can see like zombies on the floor and you run them over with the sphere. It's amazing.
Oh, we've got them to be able to get it from here to there and different colours and
Just by
draw
the ramps
shapes.
and the jumps and stuff.
No, we haven't got that far yet. So,
Next stage.
Yeah.
when they're little, you kind of just want to inspire.
Of course, yeah.
In the classroom, I've seen treasure hunts and maps with on the floor done, and that was so much fun.
That's cool.
And then I think a lot of companies are aware of their impact on society as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's just government. I think it's also large organisations that are trying to make a difference as well. I think in Perth WA we are very, very lucky. There's something about us here. We are a giving society. So I don't know a Western Australian who doesn't want to give back.
Yeah.
In actual fact, when I became a Western Australian, it asks you what you're going to do for society and what you're going to do volunteering, what you're going to do to make a difference.
Yeah.
And I think that is part of the makeup of who we are. And we encourage people to help each other. So yeah, STEM in schools, I think more could be done.
Oh, of course.
I think from
Yeah.
college level, I think there's not necessarily enough pathways. But compared to, I did Jacobs, we went to Women in Engineering, Maths and Sciences at UWA last week. Myself and Louise went, and that was smart. Then there was a room full of super smart women doing maths, doing just engineering, just amazing things that, going back, I wish I'd had the confidence and the drive to do maths at school, maths at A level. I didn't. I didn't want to be the only girl in the class, but I should have. And it's great now to see these women coming through. Just, it's amazing.
Coming back to the book, I would like to point out to the listeners that it's a very, it covers a lot of topics.
It does.
But what I'd like to ask is, how do you change the world when the number of topics are so varied? So flicking through, you see climate change, pandemic, diversity.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of problems with the world. And
Yes.
if you're going to change the world, how do you tackle such a large, expansive problem?
Yeah.
It's a strange question, but I'd love to know because I think with young people today, I'm kind of young still. There's more of a focus on climate change, for instance.
Yeah, definitely.
And people are jumping into that.
I think the stats were just released recently.
Yeah,
that
I saw it this morning.
that young people are flocking to
climate change solutions and it's like climate science.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, because if we're going to save the world, we've got to start somewhere. That I start with a quote at the beginning of the book by Barack Obama, and it says, it basically says, I'm paraphrasing here, one word, one sentence, one book, one town, one city, one country, one region, and then the world. So all it starts with is one word, one sentence. If you don't say that sentence, then the moment has passed. So you have to start somewhere. I also think it's about picking those ideas. So I talk about in the book as well, I lack focus. I know that. I've been told that the whole of my life. Hey, it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I know I need to divide the ideas. So it's about prioritizing, ranking, and then being aware of all those ideas and saying, those ones are not for now. I'm never ever going to do them, not for 10 years or so. That's fine. That's okay. Which ones can I bring into the 5-year horizon? Which ones can I bring in the 3-year or the 1-year horizon? Which ones am I going to do this month? Which ones am I going to do this week? Which ones am I going to do today? And it's breaking it down into this huge, amazing, you're going to change the world, down into what can I do today, or what can I do in this meeting, or what can I do? It's outcome focused. It's looking at, so a very real example is when we bought the farm. Everybody thought we were insane. They're like, what the hell are you doing? Building an off-grid farm in the middle of nowhere. Why? Well, because you never know what can happen in the world. That was my thinking. And I don't think I'm going to get on a spaceship anytime soon. So, hey, let's save the world.
So this is your insurance against...
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So everybody thought we were insane. But an idea is insane until its time has come. So 6 years ago when we did that, everybody was like, what the hell are you doing? Then
everyone's starting to go, oh yeah, it's not terrible.
No, like when the pandemic happened, everybody was like, that's amazing. And everybody started buying up properties around us and prices were going through the roof.
I was definitely thinking, guns and bunkers.
Underground bunkers.
Shh, don't tell everybody. No, so sometimes you have to back your crazy ideas, and you have to be willing to give it a go, because if you don't, somebody else will.
All right, so now we can move back to this farm thing. I'm happy.
The farm and the book are interrelated.
Yeah, excellent.
So
I've been listening to a recent podcast called It Could Happen Here.
Okay.
It's about the collapse of society and has slowly iterated itself into the crumbles of society, as it happens with climate change refugees.
Crumbles is like, it's not full collapse,
it's
right?
a subtle, coffee starts costing a bit more.
Institutions are not looking after
batteries
us.
aren't available. It's slow
scary
decline.
stuff.
Yeah, and so the climate change refugees, and then you have things like social unrest and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Supply chain breakdowns.
Supply chain logistic issues, which is actually a thing as well. Still is a problem.
We're actually going through it now.
Chipageddon. But what I'm getting at is that in the podcast, he offers a solution.
Yes.
And the solution is the the mutual aid solar punk movement, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the off-grid thing that you're looking at.
Yeah.
So my question is, in the medium to long-term future, will society transform into a solar, green, ecological, friendly kind of what's it called? I'm not going to say the word anarchy, but everyone helping each other out, raising chickens and sharing it for veggies.
Kind of like
A utopian world.
Is that?
I personally, I wouldn't call it utopia. I would call it survival. It's kind of like when it's like
my kind of utopia.
It's like when Cuba, how Cuba managed being cut off from the world. They started.
You become a self-sustaining
community gardens.
Well, we are.
Yeah.
We're cut off. WA's borders are shut off right now. So what happens if we are shut off for a long time?
Although the supply chain's not shut off, thankfully. That would.
But if it
that's what I'm getting at.
That's what I'm getting at too.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I wrote my book, because I do talk about that in there. And yes, I did something, 10 years ago, which was a Ordnance Survey innovation 24-hour challenge. And I came up with this idea, and I got down to the final however many. And it was called Ugly Grub. And it's written off now because it's been done in supermarkets. And it was about self-sustaining economy, getting the farmers in an area on an app to share if they've got ugly grub available that doesn't meet certain standards.
Yeah.
Simple, very simple solution. So this isn't something that's been around. This has been something around that's years and years. I just think the time is right. And the timing now is that, like you said, more and more people are doing environmental studies, more and more people care. The next generation coming through really do want to make a difference. And they're the people who are going to revolutionise the world. So hopefully that's what I'd like.
Great. All right. I think that's a good spot to end it. We have one more question for you.
Okay.
It's a whimsical question that we ask every guest. I don't know if you're a wrestling fan, but when the wrestlers come out at the start, the lights go down, the smoke machine starts, their song plays that embodies their character and communicates who they are to the audience.
Yeah.
What is Sarah James's intro song? So let's say you're giving a TED talk on changing the world.
Yeah.
And the organizer asks you, what song would you like to play as you come out on the stage?
The Who. Next Generation.
Nice.
That's what I'd do.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank
that was
you.
an absolute pleasure. Where can people find your book?
Oh, Amazon, local bookstore in Perth, Boffins.
Oh, great. So people can find it at Boffins?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So go pick up Sarah James. Are you ready to change the world? Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
All right. You've made it to the end of another episode of Tech Society. Well, that was a great episode. I hope you enjoyed that as much as we enjoyed making it. Make sure you hit us up on Twitter @Tech Society, head over to the website, subscribe to the newsletter.